start. Okay. Right. So if you didn't tune in about a month ago, what we're doing here is we're trying a new kind of format where we invite users, especially users from our existing community, to join and kind of see some of the newest features that we launched so that they know how to use them and kind of get inspired. And this is a conversation, right? It's not like a sales demo. We're not here to sell anything. We're just here to talk about some cool features that we hope you guys will like, since you're the ones that, as you saw from the poll, you're the ones that use Deepnote really actively, sometimes even more than we actually use it. So I'm actually joined here. So I'm a product manager. My name's Ido. I'm a product manager at Deepnote, and I'm joined here by some other Deepnote employees. So Shimon, you want to introduce yourself first?
Oh, yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Simon. I work as a software engineer in Deepnote, but in the past, I worked as a research and development engineer around computer vision, and then I became a team lead of a machine learning team. So that's kind of why I'm at Deepnote.
Andre, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Andre. I'm also engineer in Deepnote, mainly on backend and infrastructure. And previously, I work as ML engineer in Atacama, and that's it.
And fine. We have two actually. So Honza, how about you?
Yeah, I work at Deepnote as well, surprisingly. And the same as Andre, I work mostly with the backend and infrastructure. So when Deepnote is down, it's usually my fault. And if it's up, nobody cares. It's about me. And I have worked in all the different places previously. Not really interesting.
And finally, Liz, who I guess you know from community, but she can introduce herself as well, I guess.
I think I don't have to, but hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Liz. That's it.
Cool. All right. I recognize a few of you, and it's nice to see you all. Let's just get started. I'll talk about some of the latest features in Deepnote, and we can also talk about any other topics that come to your mind. So feel free to interrupt, ask questions. Right, let's get to it. So who is this for? Like I said, it's for you guys who are active users, but also hopefully some newcomers occasionally drop in, or users who don't use Deepnote as much, who kind of want to know how to become, more experienced with the tool. We're going to cover these three topics today, as well as any ones that you bring up. We're going to talk about scheduling notebooks, which I think is a big one that I really like. And I think it's kind of a game changer feature that can really change the way you use Deepnote. We're going to talk about chart blocks, or Shimon will talk about that. He's actually the one that developed it, so he should answer every single question you have. And finally, Ipi Widgets. Some of you, I think, here actually asked about Ipi Widgets before, so we are starting to roll it out, and I'll briefly mention that as well. Right, so let's get started with scheduling notebooks. If you saw the product update, scheduling notebooks is all about being able to take a notebook, any notebook that you have in Deepnote, and just setting it so that it can run on a schedule, a daily or weekly schedule at a certain time. And it'll just run automatically without you having to actually sign in and to have Deepnote open. Now, I'm going to briefly, it's quite a self-explanatory feature, so I'm not going to go too much into how it works. It basically just runs in the background. I'm just going to give you some examples of how it can be used. The simplest example is I'm going to, take this really simple API that just lets me read the latest Bitcoin price. So here's the latest Bitcoin price in dollars USD, and it's close to $40,000. So it might be, it's quite hyped up right now. So it might be a good time to do an application like this. And what I'm going to do just to show you how you can use this is I'm going to get it to send me an email. And this won't work just because I don't have my actual address and password stored here, just because I don't want to share it with the rest of my team for now. But essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking this value, I'm just attaching it to some email body that says this is today's Bitcoin rate, and then I'm sending myself an email. Now I already went and scheduled this about an hour ago. So I have it scheduled to just recently, yeah, about 1 hour ago. And it should have run already. So if we go to the activity log, we can see whether it ran or not. So there's activity log. Let's uncheck some things just so I can only see. Yeah, and I can see that it's scheduled, and indeed there was an error. So it ran for 294 milliseconds and then it errored out. And then I can actually tell it to send me an email so that I can be notified when the run succeeds, but I can also be notified if it fails. So that's something really simple that you can do. And it's just an example of how you can start generating using your Deepnote, not just to do your data analysis, but also to start, creating productivity tools, to start interacting with your team, to start interacting with other apps. That's a simple example. Let me show you a slightly more interesting example that I think is interesting, for example, for the Deepnote team. Here, I actually went and subscribed to a Twitter API. And what I'm doing is I'm using my favorite integration, which is the environment variable integration. So I have environment variables stored, which are the API keys. In this case, I have the API key for Twitter. And then I'm going to read the old data, and we'll go into that later. But basically what I'm doing is I'm looking at old data that I already generated. And then from that, I'm going to take, so what I got from there is all the previous tweets that I looked at before. So these are some previous tweets I looked at. I can see the date that they were created. I can see their text. And these are all the tweets that contain Deepnote in them. And this is relevant for us because we always want to know if somebody mentioned Deepnote in their tweets so that we can interact with them, we can engage with them, because we love it when people tweet for us. So if you didn't get the hint, that means that you should follow us on Twitter and you should actively participate in our Twitter activity. So yeah, these are various tweets that occurred since the 14th of May, I believe. So I can look at the tail. And yeah, the 14th of May, we got something about happy birthday, George Lucas, and something with Deepnote in there. Now, what I want to do is I want to run this notebook on a schedule. So every day it updates with the newest tweets. So I'm going to look at this old data set and I'm going to extract, I know the date that was retrieved. So I'm going to use that retrieval date and start reading data. So I will start my search from the last date that was retrieved, so the 19th of May, to the current date. So basically just recently. So datetime.now. Yeah, so just, I subtracted 1 minute just to avoid some errors with the Twitter API that we can get into. But basically, I'm going to read the last 24 hours of tweets that contain contain Deepnote in the text. So there it is. That's my API request. Here I'm reading up to 100 tweets. That's the maximum. I'm going to get some fields, and this is the important part. I'm going to make sure that it starts from the end of the last run, right? So from yesterday, and it's going to end from just now when I spoke. So I got those tweets. You can see them as a dictionary here. And now I converted them to a data frame so I can see them here. So here we can see the latest tweets from the 20th of May. We have some of our own tweets. So this is, I think, Shimon, this is your account, right? Or a retweet of Shimon's tweet. We can see other retweets. And then I can store this data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Twitter history. So up until now, let me add a code block here. My tweet history, like we said, the latest date that I have so far is the 19th of May. So I'm just going to combine it with my latest tweets. So now my tweet history, the latest tweet will be on the, let me put the tail here, on the 20th of May. So now I got all the latest tweets from today. And now what I can do is I can store it, right? So I can do to JSON. I'm just going to overwrite the previous file with the latest tweets. And this is actually, I really recommend this. I only discovered this recently. If you use orient table, it's actually also going to save the schema of the data frame to your JSON file, which means that you don't need to fuss with data types. It's going to maintain the same data types that you had in your actual pandas data frame. Has nothing to do with scheduled notebooks, but it's actually an interesting pro tip that I only discovered recently. So yeah, and now that means that I have my CSV, and now it's updated with, or sorry, my JSON, and now it's updated with the latest data that I have, which means that next time I run this notebook, and this can run on a schedule. I already have another notebook scheduled, so it's complaining. We can talk about ways to get around this later, but essentially, if I run this daily from now on at 8 a.m., what I'm doing is I'm going to schedule this to every time add the latest days of tweets, so then I can get just a big data set of all the tweets that occurred since the beginning of time. And then you can do interesting things with it, right? Like in the Bitcoin, we sent an email. Actually, one of our community users, Francisco, where is he? So let me find. Yeah, so actually, if you go to community, you can see a really interesting example by Francesco, who he created what's called an ETL pipeline. So ETL pipeline basically means you take your raw data, you're going to transform it on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, and then you're going to store it as like process data. So that's exactly what Francesco did. He created a post where, and he only shows that as a video because there's some sensitive content there, but essentially he's doing some transformations here. And it's running on a scheduled basis, and then he got it to send himself a Slack message, and a Slack message to his whole team. You'll see it here. It's going to finish running, and then there will be here a Slack message. Your notebook was executed successfully. And that's really valuable, right? If you're a data engineer, this is really powerful because now you know that you had a successful ETL run. And I don't know if any of you have done data engineering, but that's actually a huge pain point to have to constantly go back to your platform and check if it ran successfully. Now you can do that via Deepnote. It's also great, for example, for the Twitter data set that I used, right? Elizabeth, for example, she's always the one that's on Twitter and checking when was Deepnote mentioned on Twitter. So now what she can do is she can create this notebook and take this tweet history and just send a Slack message of the latest tweets. So then she can get a daily feed of the tweets, and she knows she can get a link to them if she wants, and then click on the link and see when Deepnote was last mentioned, if it's worth following up. Right, so that's all about notebook scheduling, and I'll go into kind of one last thing that we can do with it afterwards, towards the end. I think for now, I'll just open it up to questions on your end. If you have any questions, there's some other pro tips that I'll bring up as we talk about it. So yeah, anybody have any questions about this? Right, is Andrew here, by the way? Andrew, no, I guess Andrew isn't there, but essentially Andrew asked once about how to create APIs from Deepnote notebooks, and we're not there yet, right? So you can't take a URL or create an API request from a Deepnote notebook, so it's not an API endpoint, but this is getting close to kind of using Deepnote as not just a data analysis tool, but also as a way to kind of create some programmatic transformations on your data, programmatic interfaces with other applications like Slack or email. And it's a way to start doing data engineering, right? So we talked about Francisco's ETL pipeline. This is what you would call an EL pipeline, this Twitter stuff, because I'm extracting the data from Twitter and I'm just loading it onto my JSON file. If you have a SQL database, then you could do everything you did before, but with SQL, right? So right now I did it with JSON because that's kind of simpler to illustrate, but I could have, created I could have connected my, let's say, RNA Central PostgreSQL database, and I could have added to it every day. And basically we're starting to do some data engineering via Deepnote. Right, if there's no questions there, and feel free to interrupt me, we can move on to the other kind of feature that we just recently launched, I think 2 weeks ago, which was chart blocks, which I really like and I love, but I'll let Shimon dig into it and explain it. So I'll stop sharing here.
Should I just take over? No,
Yeah,
I can't.
I stop
Okay,
sharing.
now I can. Alrighty then. Wait. Yeah. Okay. Let's start sharing. Can you see? Can you all see my Deepnote screen?
Yeah.
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 Awesome. So just a quick bit of intro. Maybe I should have did. Let me just do the intro before that. So just kind of the
Sharing
context.
stopped.
Yeah, that's cool. I stopped sharing. I wanted to talk
Okay.
for a minute before that. So just the context for this new feature that we've added. So I come from a background of data analysis and machine learning, and I spent a lot of time just kind of doing very quick exploratory data analysis, just quickly browsing through data and visualizing to get some key insights. And I've used Metabase a lot for this. I've used Tableau a lot. And if you're familiar with those tools, they're basically tools that let you query data and visualize it really fast without writing any code. And it's kind of something I really missed in Jupyter, with especially with pandas data frames, to just be able to quickly plot something to get an insight without having to look up like matplotlib code or plotly. I don't know how about you, but I always need to Google that stuff. I never can kind of just import matplotlib and start typing. So this kind of just a quick context for what I'm going to show you. And now, if you've already seen my YouTube video from the product update, it's going to be a bit disappointing because I'm just going to try and do the same thing over here. If not, I hope this is going to be interesting. So let's just do a quick example of a data set that you might work with. I'm using Vega datasets here, and I'm using a cars dataset. Maybe you've seen it. It's one of the kind of the canonical example datasets that just has the models of different cars, some numbers around statistics about the engine, number of cylinders, the miles per gallon consumption, stuff like that. And there's the year of the make and region of origin. And so what I'm just going to do is just use the new chart blocks for a few visualizations, something very typical that you might do with any new data set that you want to try and start to understand. Cool. So we've recently added this visualize button over here for any data frame, whether it's coming from a SQL cell or just it's just a pandas output. So I'm going to click it. Unfortunately, it's not going to pre-fill my new cell with the cars just yet. That's definitely coming. And as you can see, I get this very simple UI where I can actually start choosing my visualization. Pretty simple right now. And the chart type is here, just 4 charts right now. So let's just do a simple line chart for starters, where I'm going to plot just number of records in this data frame per year. So I'm going to select year for the x-axis, and there's a special entry here that we added, just count. So I don't care like putting some specific value from the data frame, just the number of records. If you've used Tableau before, this is like number of records in Tableau. And I already see that I have a perfectly. Sorry. Okay. So a perfectly fine line chart showing me how many records are per year in this data frame. I can break it down further by coloring by the origin. So we have 3 regions of origin: USA, Japan, and Europe. And it's just working out of the box, and it's giving you these quick visualizations. If I, for example, decide to switch from line chart to an area chart, I'm going to get the same thing, but it's going to give me like a stacked area chart for these 3 regions. So this is kind of just a very basic line chart. Next thing I want to do is a scatter chart, something that you probably use often to just try and get some insight into maybe the correlation between 2 columns. So let's compare. So let's see what we have here. We have so there's acceleration of the car model, and we also have weight. So I would assume acceleration is lower as weight gets higher. So let's just kind of check that assumption. So I'll put weight as the x dependent variable, and I'll do acceleration on the y-axis. And yeah, you can kind of see a little bit of a negative correlation here, as you would expect. It's not super strong. Let's throw in the number of cylinders into the mix as color. All right, and now as you can see, so we're using Altair and Vega Lite to power these chart blocks, and the default way that Vega Lite has interpreted my cylinders, since it's an integer, it's a number, it interpreted the color scale as continuous. But it's kind of more of a categorical variable for me. So I'm gonna jump into the 3-dot menu here, which kind of exposes some advanced options. And there's the type. And so I'm gonna just switch it to categorical, and this will cause Vega Lite to reinterpret these as categories and color them differently, not on a linear scale. And you can see an interesting thing here, that heavier cars have more cylinders. I'm not that big of a car guy myself, so this is actually something I learned when doing this demo. But I guess it makes sense. Like the heavier the car is, the more cylinders it needs in its engine to kind of keep that acceleration going. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is a bar chart, maybe the most popular type of chart. So actually, I'll use the oops, we have the new blog actions here. So I'm going to use that and just duplicate this chart block so that I don't have to repeat everything. Yeah, so let's do a bar chart, like I said, and I want to visualize the number of cylinders a little bit more. So I'm gonna put count on the x-axis so that we get a vertical bar chart. No, wait, is this a vertical or a horizontal bar chart? So the one that's kind of going from left to right.
Horizontal.
Horizontal. All right. And let's put origin on the y-axis. Yeah, so I love these horizontal bar charts. Yeah, so what we see is a bar chart that's split by the area of origin, and it's colored by the number of cylinders in the engine, and it's kind of stacking up by the number of records in the data set. And interestingly enough, you can see that like only USA has 8-cylinder and 6-cylinder cars, and most of the European and Japanese just have 4 cylinders. Simple as that. So this is interesting. I'm curious whether the number of cylinders has some effect on mileage, on fuel consumption. So again, I'm going to duplicate this cell. We'll do another bar chart, but we'll actually do just a standard vertical one. And so we'll put count on the y-axis, and yeah, and the fuel consumption, miles per gallon, on the x-axis. And actually, I'm curious about how number of cylinders relate to this. So we're getting something. It is a bar chart, but it's kind of all over the place because the miles per gallon is a pretty continuous variable. So what you usually want to do is, so I'm kind of creating a histogram over here, right? So I'm gonna go into the 3-dot menu here, and you can see that X and Y axis have a lot more options here. But what I'm looking for right now is actually the binning option, so that my bars are a little more consolidated. Yeah, and yeah, as you can see, this is very, like on the left here, we have the green color, which means the 8 cylinders, and they have the worst mileage. And as we go to the right, move towards 4 cylinders, you can see that they're getting a lot more miles per 1 gallon. Yeah, I can switch colors to origin, but we know origin heavily correlates with. Oh, what happened here? Let me refresh. Origin heavily correlates with cylinders, but you can see that again, USA, which is red in this graph, kind of very left-leaning. People don't care about mileage as much in the USA, apparently. and probably gas is also way cheaper there. So that makes sense. Whew, this was exhausting. Yeah, let's just stop it right here, because I think this is enough for you. You must be a little kind of exhausted by me talking. I hope you like this. So what do you think about these chart cells? I actually just used them today to do a quick line chart, and I felt like that was a superpower for me, that I don't have to type any code to get some basic charts in place. So what do you think?
I love it personally. It's amazing. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. You can hear well.
I work with a lot of folks who have a decent understanding of sort of what they want to see in terms of a chart, but they don't have the technical skills to get there. And so these sort of like graphical interfaces over top of grammar of graphics based libraries is just so powerful, because the GUIs are so close to the code. You know what I mean? Like if you look at an Altair block of code and then you look at those graphical user interfaces, they map on so well. So I just love how this is changing the landscape of how to use graphical user interfaces to build visualizations. It's amazing. I have done like a little bit of work in that area, just like on my own time, and tried to figure out like, how would you do that? And I really love your the way you've abstracted everything and kept it sort of at that like lighter level. Now, one thing that occurs to me, because you can see when you're making those charts that you inevitably get to a chart that's good for visualization, but not so great for publication, right? And that's the trade-off. It's like it's exploratory is one thing, aesthetics and publication is another thing, and there's quite a chasm between those two ends. Now, can you imagine it? So this is just my own thinking, and I've implemented a terrible version of this, but I'm sure you'd be able to do a much better job. But can you imagine being able to actually edit the underlying spec as an escape hatch? So now you have someone who's learning visualization. They're getting this low barrier to entry into exploratory analysis from this nice widget that you have. But now they're like, oh, I want to like put text labels on top of a bar, or I need to go a little beyond this GUI. Now all of a sudden you hit view as spec, and now they can start to translate what the GUI and what the code looks like, and maybe add a little tiny bit to it. Maybe they want to change the tooltips. Maybe they want to stack something differently or go beyond the GUI. And then that's a nice little escape hatch. Even for someone who knows Altair or Vega Lite, that's really powerful, because you just get started with the GUI, then you can dive into the spec, make a couple changes, change a label, let's say, change titles, padding, whatever it might be. I think that you've probably thought about that as an escape hatch, but what do you think about it in general now?
Yeah, so you're totally right. This the feature at this moment mostly fulfills that exploratory use case, but that escape hatch that you mentioned is exactly what we're planning to add as a next step to this. Because really, as I said, this is just using Altair and Vega Lite under the hood. So we can very easily just give you the option to, okay, I got the basic stuff done right. Now I want to like really customize this. So just kind of convert or export this cell to just Altair or Vega Lite cell. And you can keep going. And you can, just like you said, you can keep adding this fine-tune refinement, tweaking your colors and like bar widths or whatever, right? And that's kind of with the publication mindset. So that's a really great point. And let me see if I have this here. We even have that that button to export the visualization to code in the original design. I wanted to. My computer is getting slow, but yeah, we even had it in the design, and I took the design when I was implementing it, and I just said, okay, we'll do this later. so yeah, we're definitely looking at that as a first-class citizen. And there's like a million directions this could go. We could just keep adding stuff to the UI, make it more complicated. but I believe this kind of export to code option is going to be a huge unlock eventually for a lot of people. Yeah, that's it. That's a great point. Does anyone else have any thoughts on which of those 1,000 directions this feature could take in the upcoming weeks or months? I'd love to hear some of your thoughts.
I can tell you that this looks a lot like what we use is Redash, and it's just been a boon to analysts who don't really know how to code at all, but learn a little bit of SQL and are able to pop up graphs. And they use it all the time. They use it for QC in a bigger system, but in a notebook, it's wonderful. It's so useful. Thank you.
Oh, it's so great to hear. Actually, if you combine this with our SQL cells, you can just do a SQL, visualize it, and you don't have to even type any Python code. so that's entirely possible in Deepnote right now.
Shimon, you could drop that demo project that you just used into the chat. So
yeah,
and like
good idea. Thanks.
Else. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, let's move on to the next one, Ito. I think we're ready.
Alan, you were just about to say something.
Oh, I don't want to hold anything up. I was just curious. I was just curious. What do you think about the other efforts that are going on in terms of like automating visualization? Like, for example, if you were to select 2 quantitative columns and a scatter point, then it has to be, well, let's say a circle and 2 quantitative columns, then it has to be a scatter plot. And so there are also ways of thinking of things as being constrained into a particular visualization just based on the data types and the geometric shape that's being selected. Have you thought at all about just incorporating something of a more automated thing where the visualization is essentially chosen for you based on the columns that you select? I think he might be frozen.
Sorry, am I dropping off or is that Alan?
Not sure.
Yeah,
I see you dropping off a little bit.
Maybe if you turn up your video.
Yeah, close your video maybe.
Like this? Hey, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, I love that idea that you mentioned. I think it's a little bit maybe too far ahead of where we're at right now, but yeah, I can totally see that working. But I think we'd have to go a little bit further than just Altair and Vegalite, and we really have to spend some time researching this and doing some original thinking around this, because honestly, what you saw here was basically developed in 2 to 3 weeks, thanks to that really awesome already existing open source software packages. But yeah, I'd love to see that, because that would make this feature even more accessible and even more easy to use. Because if you watch me click through that UI, you've seen that we had some intermittent graphs that didn't make any sense, right? So I guess that's kind of what you meant. All right.
Thank you.
Cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just about to ask in the chat, but I'll ask here. Cool. So we have 6 minutes left, 5 minutes left. I can quickly go over Ipi widgets. I can quickly go over some more use cases for dashboards or for scheduling notebooks and maybe even creating some live dashboards. So if you want me to go over Ipi widgets, maybe raise your hand either by video or through your your reactions button in Zoom, or in the chat. You can write whichever one you prefer. Okay, Ipi widgets 2. Dennis, that's 3. Okay, let's go for Ipi widget. I see 4 people, and Elizabeth voted for it twice, so that's 6. Let's let me share my screen. I'll quickly go over it. To be fair, I'm definitely not a Ipi widgets expert, And the person who developed this actually was not able to join us today. So I'll just show you it, and then I'll tell you what we can do. So first of all, to quickly show you, basically the announcement is that we're rolling out Ipi Widgets, and it's finally starting to work. We have the basic widgets available. So here we can create a slider and link a bar to it, a progress bar to it. Here we can, do the standard radio buttons. We can do, find it, yeah. So you can do, fancier tables than the ones that we offer if you really want to, do filtering or whatever on it. Even though, there's talks among our team to allow this functionality natively within our own data frame viewer, but until then, you can do it through your widgets. And Ipi leaflet works as well if you really wanted to get these maps quickly displayed. So, where am I? Yeah. And finally, you can do something cool that somebody in community asked about. Yeah, he was teaching a class and he wanted to link his webcam to, using Ipi WebRTC, which is really creepy to see yourself within your own notebook. But yeah, you can do that. You can take a photo here and then analyze it just like you would analyze all your kind of computer vision images. Yeah, creepy stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the extent of what I can tell you about Ipi widgets, because I'm not a frequent user of them, and I'm still kind of wrapping my head around how to use them, like, kind of triggering things so that when you change a slider, you can trigger other things to happen using an on-change event and things like that. But what we can do, because this isn't publicly launched yet, what I encourage you to do is either now in the chat, just say me. If you want us to kind of enable it for you, just say me or give it to me or whatever, I don't know. Or you can email me. Let me put, Eliza, can you write our emails in case somebody, yeah. Or you can email us and ask for access. And if you're really into Ipi widgets, you can get that, and we'll make sure that they're available to you. And then try them out and give us feedback so we can see whether, what libraries work for you that require Ipi widgets and what don't. And just like the webcam, there are libraries that you might want to use that currently don't work based on kind of our Ipi widget support. So we can make sure to, or we can try our hardest to make sure that those libraries do finally work. So yeah, drop your email, say me, email us personally if you don't want to put in the chat, and we'll make sure that you can have access to it and try it out. So for the people who voted, I think that's Dennis and some other people, you better do the testing if you want me to talk about it right now. Okay, so that should wrap it up. There's some other things about scheduling that I wanted to talk about. There's ways to schedule multiple notebooks, even though we don't officially allow it. And for that, you can message in the chat, or you can email me later and I can show you, or I can show it in a few weeks in the next new and Deepnote. Until then, I think you know what to do. You can follow us on Deepnote. You can follow us on Twitter on Deepnote, or you can join the community. I think you're seeing that the community is starting to have kind of more content, and people are kind of spreading how to use, this multiple notebook, running multiple scheduled notebooks at once. I didn't think about that until a user on our community posted it, and now I'm actually starting to use it as well. So if you join our community, and I put it twice because it's that important, join our community, then I think you'll start being able to maximize your usage of Deepnote, and hopefully we won't even need these new and Deepnote things, so you'll start posting about them yourself. Right, so being mindful of your time, I think we'll end it here, unless Liz, do you have anything that you wanted to add?
I just had one sort of announcement. So I don't know if you have seen last month, we did our first publishing competition where you could just creatively sort of use Deepnote for any sort of educational or fun project you would like and publish it to win. I think we had like $1,000 grand prize. And so we're repeating that. I think from the people on the call, I think Carlos took part. So yeah, if you want to take part, please like keep your eyes peeled on the community. We have an announcement coming in the next week. So we would love for you to take part again. And we sort of want to make that an ongoing bi-monthly competition with specific themes and data sets that we will throw at you, and we'll be looking forward to see what comes back.
Cool. Okay. So thank you, everyone. One last time, I'm putting my email in the chat. We're going to end it here. Feel free to email me personally or post in community, or, you have some of our a few of our emails by now through all these events. So always feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. So bye. Thank you for joining.
Thanks so much, guys. It's great stuff.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a nice day.
bye.